So, Matt, a couple things. Number one, glad to see you're alive and that Baton Rouge didn't get burned down.
Yeah.
I was wondering if that was going to happen. I'm just going to let you have the floor for a second. Brian Kelly, the stepfather you never knew you needed. And turns out he was the one you needed all along. The floor is yours, Moscona.
Yeah, it was an incredible day. We so seldom, guys, get those opportunities anymore. We're a culture that has valued the home viewing experience so much. So we just don't see full stadiums at Full Throat anymore. It's a rare one-off, even at Tiger Stadium. But it showed again why it's the best big game venue in the world. And at Full Throat, Tiger Stadium's a lot for anybody to deal with. And man, that's one that LSU fans are going to be talking about for a long time. And oddly enough, it's like LSU's had big wins and upset wins in the past. 97, they beat number 1 Florida and tore down the goalpost. But that 97 team wasn't going anywhere. The reason this is different is now LSU is essentially a win away from Atlanta. Now you, in November, legitimately have to talk about LSU in a college football playoff context. They could certainly go screw it up and lose to Arkansas or Texas A&M, but I'm not sure I believe that's going to happen at this point. And, man, I fully expect LSU is going to be playing in Atlanta that first Saturday of December against Georgia for a right to go to the playoff, which, guys, even when I was sitting here a month ago talking to y'all, I told you point blank when Cone asked me. I didn't believe that was a remote possibility for this team. It has happened way more quickly than I think anybody thought.
So, Matt, when you look at that game, and I'm with you, it was an unbelievable atmosphere. But again, that doesn't surprise me with LSU. I expected it, a night game in Baton Rouge. That's one of the ways you find your way to Hogwarts. You just stumble around the stadium and you end up there at some point. But when you look at how the game played out, we talked about Alabama's plan. They looked kind of disorganized in how they were handling Jaden Daniels. But I laid out the 3 things they had to do. They had to be able to win. They needed a little help from Alabama, which they got. I'm going to get to that in a second. They needed to play clean, especially on special teams. They did that. And I thought Jaden Daniels utilized that deep third enough to keep Alabama honest. But the biggest play of the game, without a doubt, Matt, was the turnover by Bryce Young on the first drive that Alabama had, because that game looked like it was going toward LSU going down early again. And I don't think they could have gone down early against this Alabama team and clawed back the way they did against Ole Miss and Auburn. Was Bryce Young throwing that interception on their first drive offensively the biggest play of the game? I feel like it turned the whole game around early.
I can understand the opinion. I don't know that I necessarily think it was. Because, look, we could look at a game that ended tied. You could say, well, obviously that was an opportunity to get points. But the reason I would disagree is LSU's been in that spot. I mean, I know it's been a narrative, but they were down 14 to Florida State, 13 to Mississippi State, 17 at Auburn. They were down 17-3 to Ole Miss.
But Matt, there's a difference between they went down to Tennessee and got ran out of the gym. I think it would have been a lot more similar to the Tennessee game as opposed to Auburn, who's inept on offense, Ole Miss, who's a run-to-pass offense. You know what I'm saying?
Here's the difference. Tennessee remains a bad matchup for this LSU team. Alabama, and the reason LSU was able to have the success they did, guys, Bryce Young completed fewer than 50% of his passes.
I've never seen him play that bad.
And it's not that Bryce Young is just all of a sudden became a bad player. It's 2 things. Number one, LSU's defensive front 7 looks like an LSU defensive front 7. There are parts of the team that don't, but the LSU's defensive front 7 with Baskerville and Perkins and B.J. Ojolari, fast, athletic dudes that can run, they pressured Bryce Young all night. They had double-digit quarterback hurries. Every time he dropped back, he was hurried or hit. So that was 1 and 2. Bama's receivers aren't as good as Tennessee's. LSU's vulnerability defensively is their secondary, in particular on the edges. LSU's cornerbacks do not look like Stingley and Tre'Davious White and Patrick Peterson. It doesn't look like that. And Bama's receivers couldn't take advantage of it. Tennessee's good because they're fantastic. Any team that rolls up on LSU with that amount of talent at receiver is going to have success through the air. Bama couldn't take advantage of it, and that's why LSU was able to string together stops against that team.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great perspective, and I do agree. Tennessee, with what they do, is obviously a tough matchup for basically everybody. Georgia kept them behind the chains, kept them off schedule for the first time this year. Jaden Daniels, Matt, Jr., a lot of people talk about Walker Howard and some of the young guys that are on this LSU roster. I don't think Jaden Daniels is to a point where he's going to go into the draft. I feel like you have your quarterback for next year. How do you feel about Jaden Daniels being the guy next year? And I think that he could legitimately be a guy that we could be talking about in the Heisman if he keeps improving his decision-making, if he keeps taking advantage of the deep third down the field. Jaden Daniels is LSU's quarterback going into next year. I know there's still a lot this year. You got to feel comfortable if you're LSU, right?
If he comes back. And I don't think that that's a certainty.
Really? You think he throws well enough?
I don't even. It's not necessarily my opinion because everything you just said, I agree with. If he comes back and as a fifth-year college football player, and you continue to build upon look, Mike Denbrock is a great play caller. Brian Kelly obviously is a more than competent head coach, the most competent head coach LSU's had around here in 25 years. Jaden Daniels would be everything you just said. He'd be in the Heisman mix preseason. LSU would be top 10. LSU's going to get a lot back off this team. They will return a lot of talent. But Jaden Daniels, when he was coming out of high school, guys, he was a top 30 national player. And when he committed to LSU, everything I was told from people that covered him at Arizona State was he was going to be 3 and done, 3 into the league. But COVID kind of threw a monkey wrench in that. Arizona State was a disaster. And he tested the draft waters last year. He contemplated leaving, made the decision to play one more year of college football. So when he came here, guys, it was sort of understood this is like a 1-year mercenary deal. I help you, you help me. I just don't know that anyone thought the start would be as slow as it was or the come up would be as quick as it had. So if you'd asked me a month ago, I think maybe there's a better chance he stays. But the better he plays, guys, I think the better a chance there is that he goes pro. It's kind of this weird juxtaposition where if you're an LSU fan, you want him to play great because your team's winning, but he's playing so good he might go pro.
Yeah, great, but high-class problems.
Sort of the Anthony Richardson situation at the beginning of the year when we were looking at Florida. Matt, congratulations on a fantastic win. I do think that Michigan fans deserve an apology here, though, because when I asked you if LSU could beat Alabama and make it to the SEC championship, you didn't just say no. You mocked the very insinuation and said Michigan fans are living in the past. Now, LSU beats Alabama in Death Valley. Michigan's ranked 3rd in the country. Just say some nice things about Michigan, please.
No, Michigan stinks, and if they'll lose to Ohio State, and even if they do beat Ohio State and get in the playoff, they get run just like they did last year against Georgia.
You know what? That's fine too. I don't want to be the one to jinx Michigan on this show, so that's fine.
Yeah, there you go.
Nebraska was the rightful 1997 national champion too, Cone.
What's Nebraska?
But you know what, Cone? Hey, your questioning me last time was right to ask for sure.
It was fair,
and I'll tell you that because that was after LSU beat Florida before they played Ole Miss.
Yes,
and I was very adamant that I thought they would beat Ole Miss. And at the time, it sounds obvious now, but at the time there weren't a lot of people that agreed with me. But I still think in the last 3 weeks, the exponential growth that LSU has shown, particularly on defense. I know everyone talks about offense and Jay Daniels and what's happened there. That's relevant. But the way that they've found to get Harold Perkins involved with BJ Ojolari on the field, because that was the problem, guys. Essentially, those guys were playing the same position. Now Matt House, the defensive coordinator, has done a brilliant job of finding ways to creatively get both those guys in the field at the same time. LSU's defense is kind of a different animal right now. And I still worry, like if they run up on a team like Tennessee that's got that much skill, like if they ran up against Ohio State with those receivers, that's a problem for this team. But if they could pressure Stroud or any quarterback the way that they pressured Bryce Young, it gives you a chance. It's so hard for me to look at a possible matchup with LSU and Georgia and think that LSU at this point could go toe-to-toe. But, I mean, guys, it's why they play the game, man. And, you know, I think there's a lot of fans around here who probably remember in 2001, LSU played Tennessee in the regular season up in Neyland. That was Saban's second year. They got blown out by Florida at home. They lost a late October game to Ole Miss at home. They were 5-3. They won a bunch of tiebreakers, went to Atlanta, kept getting better as the season went along, and they beat number 2 Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee was going to go play that great Miami team for the national championship in the Rose Bowl, and LSU upset them and went and won the Sugar Bowl. So I think listen, if nothing else, this is a great opportunity to stump for and advocate for an expanded playoff because teams are allowed to improve as the season goes along, and you see it in every sport every year. And it's why we need an expanded playoff, and I'm very excited for it, because a team like LSU in another month, I'm not sure many teams in the top 4, 5, 6 are going to want to play this LSU team.
Well, we see it in college basketball all the time. You're like, hey, how the hell did this 22-15 team make it to the Elite Eight? It's like, well, they won 16 of their last 17 games in the regular season and figured it out. And we see it in sports all the time.
And that's why I thought the question of LSU beating Alabama was fair for 2 reasons. One, LSU, since the bad loss against Tennessee at home, has been one of the few teams around the country to get better every single week. And like we talk about, it's hard to get better in the middle of the season. It's easier to start good and get worse. And on the flip side of that, this isn't the same Alabama team that we've grown accustomed to seeing. I know they still have Nick Saban. I know they have the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, but they lead the SEC in penalties. They had just come off a loss at Tennessee. So I still had Alabama winning.
You know what this Alabama team's like to me? It's like when you see the family that, like the military family that has like 6 kids, and 5 out of the 6 kids are unbelievably well behaved, but there's always that one kid that's just climbing all over everything and wants to take everything in the family and doesn't care. He's like the youngest one, so the parents have given up at this point. Like they're like, hey, 5 of 6 is pretty good. I feel like Adam feels like a little deeper. No, this isn't. No,
are you okay?
No, I'm not talking about you. What I'm saying is this is like the one Saban team that like they don't listen. Like they keep committing penalties. They make stupid special teams mistakes. They beat themselves. That's been the recipe for Nick and Alabama is we're going to recruit better than you. We're going to have better structure, but we're also going to play smarter than you. You're going to have worse players and beat yourself. We're going to have better players and watch you beat yourself.
But it has to be.
This is not.
It has to be
Alabama
somewhat sweet from an LSU standpoint to watch Eli Ricks get diced up a little bit in that game.
Oh, when it mattered. But did anybody realize?
Did
anybody notice that LSU ran on the 2-point play? The play that everybody runs on every two. The same one that Clemson beat Bama in the national championship game with Hunter Renfrow. It's a pick play off a sprint out arm
Pete
side.
Goldie should be fired.
I swear to God, if it was me, I'd have called timeout instantly. I'd have called timeout. When they lined up in that formation, I'm like, guys, all right, let's really think. They're running the pick play.
They called timeout.
We used to call it Z-pick.
I thought LSU called timeout.
We used to call it Z-pick.
No, I'm pretty sure Bama called timeout, right? And then
LSU called
LSU called timeout.
LSU called
That's
timeout.
what
But Nick was trying to call timeout, and Brian Kelly got one off first. And Bama still didn't get the right personnel on the field and had to run a guy off.
That's when
late.
you call timeout.
This like Saban. I'm surprised they didn't kill Pete Gold on the sideline.
Yeah, look, I hope Pete's all right.
I mean, me too. Does anybody know where Pete is?
Well, I could take a guess.
First of all, Matt, beard looks phenomenal.
It does.
And 2, the Astros are a bunch of cheaters. Okay. So let's go to
Water Boy's a cheater.
Let's go to Travis Elrod here, and he wants to know, Matt. We kind of talked about this earlier on the show. Who do you put in the playoffs? All right, a 1-loss Oregon with a conference championship, or a 1-loss Tennessee without a conference championship?
Oregon. I think that's the way it'll go. I think the committee has shown over the year they will value that conference championship if the records are the same. The exception, guys, remember the year where Penn State beat Ohio State, won the Big Ten, and Ohio State got in because Penn State, I think, maybe had 3 losses that year.
Yeah, or the time when Alabama didn't win the West and yet still got in the college football playoff.
That's happened twice.
Yeah, believe me, I know.
To ask LSU fans.
And you do too. You know better than anybody.
So, I think a 1-loss story. The really interesting thing, guys, I could throw a whole monkey wrench into it, is what happens if TCU does go undefeated. Because if TCU is undefeated, they're in.
Their strength of record's 3, Matt.
Yeah.
Their strength of TCU's got to be in. I don't get the TCU hate.
So, Matt, is it a given that a two-loss LSU team that wins the SEC championship is in the playoff?
With Clemson's loss, I would say yes, because I think the thing that could have held him out, Cone, would have been an undefeated Big Ten champ, undefeated ACC champ, undefeated Big 12 champ, and then potentially 1 loss Oregon, whose only loss was Georgia week 1. And the other thing that helps the Pac-12 now is they play the conference championship game. Remember, there's no divisions. So it's not like a North against South. It's just the 2 best.
Yeah, so they'll get a chance to beat USC or someone like that.
Either USC or UCLA.
I'll continue to say it. I think Oregon is going to win out in the regular season, but I think they're going to play UCLA in the Pac-12 championship and lose. I think we're going to be talking about a 1-loss UCLA team getting in the playoff. I'm just telling you guys, because UCLA, I think, is going to beat USC. And remember, that Oregon game, they kicked that surprise onside kick that kept UCLA in catch-up mode that whole game. It just neutral site, new phone, who dis. I'm just telling you, watch out for UCLA to make the playoff, guys.
God, I really like Oregon to win the Pac-12. I wonder who picked that. Oh, wait, I did. All right, Justin Decker, he wants to know, Matt, did the Liberty win over Arkansas popsly make Hugh Freeze the favorite to land the Auburn job?
Oh, please, God, please.
I don't think Hugh Freeze is going to get hired at Auburn. And also, I don't know if Hugh Freeze wants the Auburn job. I'm not saying – if you have something, please correct. I don't cover Auburn day to day.
I know for a fact. Number one, I don't know if he gets it because of Roberts, but I promise you, Matt, on everything I love, Hugh Freeze would take the job right now in a second. I promise that.
What conversations that I had about a month ago were that Freeze might be interested depending on who they hired as AD. So I don't know what his relationship is with John Cohen. But it stands, and by the way, his new contract at Liberty, it doesn't matter. Tear it up. Like
it's a $2.5 million buyout. Yeah,
it's just worth mentioning, Jake, because like a lot of people say, oh, he just signed an extension. It's really
not how that works.
Legitimate. Doesn't matter at all. Like he would go. But I'm more interested as far as Arkansas goes. Is that a team that a week ago they come off the big win over Auburn on the road? They're looking ahead to LSU. They have this letdown spot. Liberty pops them at home. LSU sky high after their win over Bama. Is this a letdown spot for LSU and a bounce back spot for Arkansas? 11 a.m. in Fayetteville. This one could be sticky. Just pay attention at 11 a.m.
Now, Matt, I want to make sure I'm right here with my math. If LSU, and I know we're playing the game of hypothetical, I know you got to run. We'll get you out here in a second. But if LSU beats Arkansas on Saturday and Ole Miss loses to Bama, LSU clinches the West, correct?
Correct. They would own a tiebreaker over Bama and Ole Miss at that point.
Definitely. Well, I tell you what,
Matt, LSU cost me $100, buddy. I appreciate it.
I don't think Matt cares.
I don't think Matt.
You don't need you $100. You're a Yankees fan, all right? One, and you have a beautiful beard, so I need you to care when LSU beats Alabama. We sat on the show and you said that they wouldn't, and I agreed. Now I'm down 100. I don't make enough money.
All right, now I'm gonna get that $100 live on the show tomorrow. I want to see it.
Yeah, I did pick Alabama to beat LSU, but Blaine, I learned a long time ago, bro. I don't bet on LSU or the Saints because as much as I try to be impartial, as much as I try so hard to make sure that I give an unbiased view of games and what outcome I think, I don't trust myself. Like, I can't tell you that. I don't know that I'm 100% being. I think I am. I'm trying to be.
Yeah.
But so it is my own personal rule. I don't bet on LSU or the Saints. So take my advice with a grain of salt. I didn't tell you to bet any money.
Deep down, you did. I didn't need words for you.
Hey, speaking about betting money, do you like the? Hey, speaking about betting money, you like the Saints tonight, Matt? Having said all that,
do you like Taysom Hill to put up 40 fantasy
points? About the
Saints, I do. The fact that Mark Andrews is not playing is really significant. Darren Waller did not play last week for the Raiders either. Saints defense looks like maybe they figured some stuff out. The offense has been good. That's not been the problem. That's been just the public narrative with the receiver injuries. The offense has been fine.
Yeah.
I do think the Saints win tonight.
Yeah. Who would have thought? Andy Dalton in the offense humming along and Dennis
Allen.
A
lot of Andy Dalton today.
Need a lot of
Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill.
Put him everywhere. I want him to play every position before the night's over.
Taysom Hill, the
play
Avenger,
a lot of punter.
The Avenger. All right, Matt, thanks so much, my friend. After further review, AFR, make sure you check it out. It's always good to talk to you, buddy.
Nebraska, 97 national champs.
Stop it. All right, thanks, Matt. All right, hey, everybody. I know you're loving this content. Do us a big favor, though. Hit that subscribe button. Make sure you like every video if you do like it, and turn on that notification bell so you can always know when we drop the content that you want to hear. And we're just getting started. It's going to be a fun time.